Would you like an opinion on a financial matter you're dealing with? Whether it's about retirement, investments, taxes, or 401ks, Scott Hansen and Pat McClain would like to help you by answering your call. To join Allworth's Money Matters, call now at 833-99-WORTH. That's 833-99-WORTH.
Welcome to Allworth's Money Matters. Scott Hansen.
Pat McClain, thanks for joining us.
Glad to have you with us as it's the end of January. How are you doing with those New Year's? You don't do New Year's. Most of us have some sort of goals, that sort of thing.
I used to when I was, I forget when I quit doing New Year's resolutions.
Well, when it comes to finance, planning, investing, taxes, that sort of thing, if at the beginning of the year you're thinking, this is the year I'm going to get my living trust updated, this is the year I'm going to meet with an advisor, get my retirement plan in place, this is the year I'm going to take a good look at my 401k and see if it's allocated, this is the year I'm going to see if my brokerage account could be managed a little better so it's not spinning off so much taxable income and causing my tax rate to go up. If you were thinking about this at the beginning of the year, it's now January 31st.
Probably get on it.
Get on it. Yeah.
It's kind of a pain. It most certainly is a pain, but it's part of life. It's part of being a grown-up.
Yeah, there's lots of things in our lives that most people don't love dealing with their finances. And some hate it.
Yeah.
Some hate it with a passion. They can't stand dealing with it.
Well, I love someone that loves dealing with her finance, so.
Your wife's an accountant. I don't like the nuts and bolts of the stuff. I like the
general concepts.
The general concepts. I like watching the financial markets and see how things.
And the financial planning. I said, well, it's good that you like that sort of thing since you.
Well, some of it's a bit of a puzzle because so much of planning is navigating the tax code,
and it changes, and it's not getting any easier. By the way,
it's getting more complicated.
Yes.
And so part of it is like, what's our objective? What are we trying to accomplish? Then how do we navigate through the tax law to give us the greatest possibility for success? That's really what it comes down to. Financial markets are just one piece. Navigating the whole tax code is complete other piece.
I was thinking about this the other day. Why did they let part of your required minimum distribution go directly to charity as a qualified charitable?
Why? You're putting questions to the tax? Why
part of the RMD? Why not before the RMD? Why can't you do it when you're 65? Why do you have to wait till your required minimum distribution? My guess is in our lifetime they are going to change the tax code so that you can actually give away part of your IRAs to a charity prior to required minimum distributions.
Or they won't allow it anymore. I mean, my bet is in my lifetime, the money you leave in a 401k or an IRA to a charity will be somewhat taxable. That would be my.
All right. Well, we'll wait and see. But the point being is the tax code is ever changing.
We'll wait and see. So when you do your planning, part of it is what is the current tax code? And part of it is what's your best guess on what you think the future is going to be?
And how do we mitigate against that?
And if you would have asked people 10 years ago, 15 years ago, if you thought tax rates were going to be where they are today, I shouldn't answer. I know this because I've had conversations with people. Tax rates are only going up, so let's plan this, that. They haven't. They're lower today than they were 15
The only
years
thing that's going up is the deficit.
Correct, which that'll hit a tipping point.
We've been saying that for years. It will hit a tipping point, though, at some point in time.
So one thing that hits us, and we're talking about the tax code here, and we'll take some calls here. And this impacts anyone who's 50 and older who's still working and contributing to retirement accounts. So I think you probably saw this provision, Pat. A new rule requires any workers making $150,000 or more to put a portion of their 401k contributions into the Roth, not a pre-tax.
Saw that.
So they're limiting on how much
your deduction.
And this went into effect January 1st of this year. And so not all 401ks offer Roths, most do. But going now, the catch-up contributions must go to if you're making 150,000 or more, it must go to the Roth.
So my point, things become much more complicated. The idea of simplifying the tax code is absolutely out the window. No one even talks about it anymore.
This applies to 401ks, 403bs, 457s. So if you're over 50 and you've got the $8,000 extra you can put in as a catch-up, then you can no longer get that tax deduction.
It has to go into the Roth side. I wonder what happens if you have multiple plans. What if you have a 401k?
You're still limited.
A 401k and a 457, you're still limited.
It's the catch-up.
It's just the catch-up provision. Yep.
But if you had 3 employers, you can't maximize the 401k in each. The annual limits are the annual limits combined.
But not the 457 401k.
457 is because it's salary deferral. It's not quite the same.
Not a qualified plan.
It's not. That's exactly right. What the heck is it then? Looks like a qualified plan. Acts like a qualified plan, but we call it something different, so it has different rules. But this is. Yeah. So I mean, anyone who's over making
your employer will actually notify you of that, though. Your plan administrator will.
Yeah, but it's just one of those things that...
It's just one more. Where last year it would actually lower your taxable income, and this year it will not.
So there's a couple ways why... I mean, there's some things that have hurt higher income people this year. That's one. The second is on charitable contributions. You no longer get a full deduction. You're limited... it's a 0.5% of your adjusted gross income. It has to be above... It's somewhere right in here. It has to be above 0.5% of your adjusted gross income before you start getting the deduction. And then it's capped at, the tax deduction is only at, was it 34%, 35% instead of 37%? They monkeyed with you. It's negligible.
It applies to very few.
It's negligible.
But it's there.
No, it applies to anyone.
No, understand that the cap isn't going to affect that many people.
That's correct. But those that... where the most of the charitable dollars come from, that's
rich people.
Okay, whatever. You call them whatever you want. Okay. I don't know. Is a rich person someone making $160,000 a year that can no longer put the catch-up provision to their 401k?
That is not.
Well, according to this, they're rich. Which is why you hear us talk about things like, when doing your planning, don't expect that the current tax law, here's what some things that could change. We could see a Roth withdrawal be somewhat taxable. We could see an excise tax. They had that, not that. When I entered in this industry, they had excess withdrawals.
You could see a consumption tax.
You could see a consumption, yeah,
which would be a regressive.
We could see a value-added tax, consumption tax, and a reduction in income taxes. That's a possibility. But there's a lot of possibilities.
That's regressive, and our tax code has a tendency to be progressive. That would be a big change.
It's not.
It's not. Look, but they do it. They do it in Europe. You have both.
That's right. You have both. So in your planning,
so you have a regressive side of the tax, which is a consumption tax, and then you have an income tax, which is progressive. You have both of them in Europe.
Yeah,
parts of Europe.
That's right. I think all the EU has the.
I can't speak to all
expert.
of it.
I don't really care to be the expert on. But they'd have the value-added tax. I don't know if there's much value added to the tax. And here we have in California this proposition where they want billionaires to take 5% of their net worth.
One time.
One time.
I'm sure it'll only be once.
And you see how it's calculated. It's not necessarily on your net worth. It's voting shares. So you're a founder of some large company. You have to calculate your net worth based upon what percentage of the company do you have for voting shares. So like the founders of Google, maybe they own 3 or 4% of the company, but their voting shares are 30%. So if that hit them...
Oh, it's not going to fly in court.
The founders left California at the end of last year.
The tax could be actually more than their net worth.
Correct. In this case, it would be half their tax.
And look, we're not beating on the system that got them rich. They should pay taxes. The question is, should they pay taxes in a manner that allows them to continue to pay taxes in the future?
Or are we gonna have a tax now where we start confiscating people's wealth?
Yeah. And they do have I spent some time in Norway and I have some relatives in Norway, and they have a tax where they tax you on unrealized gains. So you borrow the money from the banks. I have a niece that works for a bank.
To pay your taxes.
And they said that's why startups leave Norway, is because once they're up and running, the tax structure is such that... Anyway. All right,
the point is, when you do your planning, we got to pay attention to current taxes. And then when we start thinking 10, 20, 30 years, we have to run on a lot of these different what ifs and make an informed choice. And in a perfect situation, you get down the road and you've got money saved in different types of buckets, different areas. It gives you flexibility when it comes to your planning. Someone moves into retirement today. They have $3 million in their 401k, a paid off house, and nothing else. There's not a lot of planning to be done there. Right. And when it's time to buy a new car, they got to take the money out of their 401k, pay the taxes on it, sometimes push them into a higher tax rate. If instead you enter retirement, you've got $1 million, 1.5 in your 401k, 500,000 in your Roth, $1 million in brokerage account, or maybe 500,000 in brokerage, $500,000 rental house or whatnot. The more
diversified the asset location, the more choices you have in the distribution.
Yeah. Anyway, so let's, why don't we take some calls?
How do you join the show?
Send us an email. questions@moneymatters.com is the best way to join us. And by the way, speaking of that, we're going to take this call in a second. But if you want to join us, we have got Pat and I are taking 2 hours sitting in the studio just to take phone calls. It's
no chit chat. You don't hear about our personal lives or anything that's of interest to us.
Not whining about something, complaining about this.
It's all about you.
Yes. That's what we should call it.
All
about you phone bank time.
Where a lot of the podcast is about us as well.
So we're 2 hours in the studio just taking calls, giving you our opinion on what you're bringing to us. Thursday, February 5th. So it's Thursday, February 5th. We're going to be in the studio. It's noon to 2 p.m. Pacific time. All right, 3 to 5 Eastern time. We're in the studio. If you want to join us, 1, block it off your calendar. 2, let us know. Send us an email at questions@moneymatters.com, or you can call 833-99-WORTH, and we'll schedule a time and would like to chat with you. So let's talk now with Cindy. Cindy, you're with Allworth's Money Matters.
Hello.
Hello.
So I have a question about whether or not I should buy a rental.
Okay.
My husband and I both have IRAs, which we've started to do Roth conversions on just this last year, and we have pensions.
Are you retired?
We are retired, but both of us are working just part-time.
Okay.
For probably a couple more years.
Okay. And your pensions, when did you both retire?
2022 and 2012 for my husband, but he's, like I said, he took a little time off, but is still working part-time.
And how much are your pensions on an annual basis or monthly?
Combined about $220.
Those are hefty pensions.
And how old are you?
58 and 64.
And what's your outside family income of your part-time jobs?
It depends how much we work, but probably about 65 or 70,000.
Combined or each?
Combined.
Okay.
And we do have a kid in college still also.
Are you eligible for Social Security?
Not yet.
Will you be?
Not. Yes, we will be.
Well, the 64-year-old is eligible.
Yes.
Is working.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. And what do you have in 401ks, IRAs, that sort of thing?
Okay, so IRA combined about 1.6 or 5.
Okay.
And then about 1.6, and then cash we have a little over about 140.
And what's your home worth?
about 1.3.
And do you owe anything on it?
We did take a little out to do about 120 out to do like some fixing up.
And what's the interest rate on that?
I think it's like 5.8 or 9.
Okay.
And why do you want to buy a rental?
I just feel like it'll appreciate and it might be a good investment, and the rent will pay for most of the mortgage.
Have you ever owned a rental?
No.
I just got rid of my last rental December. So just
And where would this rental be?
Well, hopefully in a desirable neighborhood that people want to rent in, or I would even consider buying a fixer-upper and flipping it.
And how do you plan on financing this?
Well, that's my question. I was going well, we would finance it and then have to pay the mortgage, but the rent would pay part of that.
Oh,
or we could move out of our primary and move into the rental, and all the rent from a primary would pay for the mortgage.
Cindy.
What are you trying to accomplish? What is the end goal here?
Just, I guess, diversification, I guess.
Cindy, you guys have done so well.
You got massive pensions.
You have, when your Social Security kicks in for both of you, we're looking at income of around $270,000 a year.
Or more.
And that's not even taking distributions from your IRA. If you were sitting in my office, which I've had this conversation, and by the way, I had it with a gentleman in 2007 where he told me, I didn't understand, Pat, real estate's going to go forever, and he bought 5 homes in Florida. Fortunately, I stopped him, asked them nicely not to use any of their IRA money, because when they lost all the homes, they still had that. Okay. Because they ultimately lost all the homes. And I'm only an advisor. I'm not a dictator. So I couldn't, I just looked at it and thought, this is crazy. But you and your spouse have done so well. It's unbelievable. Like when you were growing up, did you think you'd ever amass this much money? And by the way, your net, that $220,000 a year, if I did a net present value of that, based upon your life expectancy,
$4 or $5 million bucks.
$4 or $5 million. It's like having $4 million in an account. You've done so well. Did you ever imagine you would have done this well?
No, but I am a little bit of a saver.
Oh, that's
I don't
perfect.
like to spend.
But that's another reason you should not buy a rental house.
So if you said, I've got $2 million in the bank, I'm trying to figure out, and we think we want to buy a rental. Okay, now you're talking about deploying some capital you have. But right now you've got $100,000 in the bank.
And actually, effectively, you owe $120,000 on. So you have $140,000 in the bank, and you owe $120,000 on a loan that's 5.9%. And the money you have in the bank is probably earning less than 4%. My recommendation is take the money from the bank, pay off the home loan at 5.9%.
And if you want to invest in real estate, you can always use some of your IRA and allocate it to a real estate investment trust that specializes. If you love primary residence, then do it in primary residence.
A traded REIT. Traded.
Yeah.
We preface that with the word traded REIT, not a non-traded REIT. I would say absolutely crazy. You've never owned one before. You have no idea what it's like. And Scott, how did you feel after you sold your last one?
I was so happy.
Well, my concern, I think, is that I feel like my concern is my kid is not going to be able to afford a home later, so buying one now might.
Okay, that's a different story. That's not diversification.
That's a family.
That's family planning here.
Yeah, and my answer to that, how old is your child?
18.
Okay, and we have no idea where your child's going to land, right?
Right.
Look, I have 4 children. 1 lives in LA, 2 live in San Diego, and 1 lives in Colorado. Right? and and they all grew up in Sacramento, and somehow they just had this incredible desire to get away from them, from their mother.
My
and myself.
daughter's been in Denver for years. She's moving back to Northern California. So hallelujah.
So when that occurs, when that time occurs, that child needs help, it's highly usual. In fact, pretty common for people with a higher net worth to help their children purchase their first home.
My 30-year-old daughter says she has no of her friends that own a home. This is age 30. Age 30. The friends that own homes all got help from their parents. She says, I don't know anyone who owns a home that didn't have a helping hand from a parent.
So when that time comes, then we should address it. But you're not really the home values, although they've risen significantly in the last couple of years in most of the United States. It won't be like this forever. It won't leave. So I appreciate the fact that you're worried about your child, but you have the means to help them when the time comes.
When the time comes.
Okay.
But I would not, if you want to ruin a nice quasi-retirement that you guys are enjoying, buy a rental house, and better yet, if you want to put some pressure on a marriage, buy a flipper, a fixer-up. If you just want to test how good your relationship is, where you actually get an argument over what kind of linoleum. And the problem with flip houses for people that have never owned them is they want to improve these houses to the quality of the homes that they live in, which oftentimes doesn't make economic sense. That's just the reality of it. But you're doing great. But our advice to you is to take that money out of the bank and pay off that
Otherwise,
home loan.
You're going to take $100,000 out and buy what price house, and then then the air conditioner goes kaputs, and you got to put a new air conditioner in. That's $25,000 or whatever.
Okay.
That's our opinion.
My husband will be happy.
Yeah, please don't. Please don't. Just
Okay.
you've done great. By the way, you're in the top 1% in the United States in terms of income,
pension,
and net worth at your age. Top 1%.
Huge pensions.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, that makes me feel good. Thank you.
All right. Thanks.
It's interesting, Pat. Look, if you are in the real estate management business, great. Maybe owning residential properties is a phenomenal place for you to be. But my personal experience, so I've owned duplexes, I've owned single-family residences, commercial buildings, but on the personal side of things, so I've owned duplexes in not the most desirable neighborhood. Actually, they did very well, capital appreciation on them, but there's still you can imagine the issues that happen with duplexes, even when you have a property manager, right? Even when you have a property manager. I've owned homes in retirement communities.
You owned a home in a college community, didn't you?
I owned a home in a college community. That was my last one I just got rid of. And so it's funny. My daughter went to, I'm telling a little personal story here. My daughter was in college, having trouble somewhere to live. I looked at the real estate market. I'm like, these homes are cheap here. I bought with the 100% intent on what's the best rental. Zero lot line.
No swimming pool.
No, there was not even a patio cover.
Right.
And this was in Portland area, so you could not go outside because you get rained on.
No one goes outside.
No. And I think it was 5 bedrooms and like a den. So we ended up, it was 6 bedrooms. So when she was in college, there was 6 college girls living there. And then I rented it out after she left. And this is about 10 years. I calculated the return. I did a simple calculation. ChatGPT had calculated the return for me, just out of curiosity, and it did roughly 10% a year. I wasn't able to get the tax deduction because there's limits on income stuff, so I wasn't able to get that. It was the same thing Cindy wouldn't have been able to get.
You would have been better off just buying a traded REIT or
same thing.
equity or.
And to me, the final thing is just, and I had a great property manager, but Scott, we need to get a new toilet. And then even during escrow, it was, there's some rat infestation in the attic. And then So the buyers are trying to come, you know how that happens sometimes, right? You're in escrow and then there's still a contingency. And so it's not done until it's done. And then they've got a little leverage. You're pushing back. And then I'm sitting there thinking, I've been in escrow for these people with almost 30 days.
You didn't try to tell them that they were pets and they came with the house.
It's a habit trail. Didn't you see? We've got tubes all over the house. One giant habit trail. Now, they could have easily brought me down even further because now it's vacant. Yeah. And I'm selling a vacant house in a different city.
And you're in contract.
If they were smart, they would have got another $5,000 out of me or something, right? Because what am I going to do? Put it back in the market and hope someone buys it in the next 2 months?
Yeah, the carry a loan.
And I did an exchange using the Delaware Statutory Trust, DST, into a
perfect sense.
Into a actually put it into a senior living thing that's someone else manages. I manage nothing, and my monthly check's the same.
So Scott, I had clients. And
no management anymore.
They went to retire, and they came to me, and they had 20 rental properties.
Well, did they have someone working full time managing them?
No, his wife did not work outside of the home, so she
was very busy.
She was extremely busy, and so he talked about how he was going to retire and that they were going to travel. And
she's not traveling.
And that's what I said to him. I said
she's got a full. She's not.
I said you can quit your job, but your wife can't travel with you like that because she works full time. She said, "Oh, no, she doesn't work outside the home." I said, "No. If you actually tracked her hours, I assure you, she works 30, 40 hours a week on this." And she did. And so they got the portfolio down from 20 homes to about 5 over a 5-year period. And the economics, look, they used leverage. I said, but in retirement, you don't really want to use that much leverage. That's not the time for leverage in your life. It's not when you add risk. It's when you de-risk in retirement.
And I imagine the homes were around the region where they lived.
That's right. They could see them all.
And they lived where, in California?
Yeah, they lived.
Okay, they lived in the right place. There's other parts of the country they would have had a very different experience.
Oh, yes. And it happens. So anyway.
There's nothing wrong with rentals, just
don't know what you're doing. You got
to realize that it's not a passive investment, when you have property manager.
Talking to the guy that was on the phone with our insurance agent.
Yeah, let's continue on. We better take some calls because we're rambling on for too long. We're in Virginia now, talking with David. David, you're with Allworth's Money Manager.
Hello, Scott and Pat.
How you doing, David?
Doing great. It's great to be on the show. I'm a big fan and a long-time listener.
Well, thank you.
Been listening to you guys for about 2 weeks now.
Oh, 2 weeks?
Yeah. But a big fan.
Okay, well, good.
Really grateful to find you guys.
2 weeks. All right, what can we do for you?
Thank you so much. I was hoping to ask a question. My wife and I are 5 years from retirement. We have a defined pension plan with the state of Virginia. And we probably need to do some making up.
You both work for the state of Virginia?
We do.
Okay,
yep.
And you'll both have pensions?
That's right.
And what percentage of your pay will the pensions make up when you retire?
That's a good question. Together, the combined at today's rate, about a little over $11,000 a month.
Okay.
We make right now $260 between the two of us. We both make right around $130.
Okay.
So I'd have to do the math real quick.
That's fine. No, so you're essentially making roughly $20,000 a month, and your pension is going to be $11,000 a month.
Yep.
Or,
I think it's about 60%.
21.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So what's your question for us?
A little bit of background might help. I come from a family where finance education wasn't a big part of our family. I was told 2 things in life. One, don't rent a house, buy a house. Thought that was good advice. I followed that. And the other one was never invest in the stock market.
Okay.
Really?
Yeah, it really was that. And so I kind of had to learn the ropes through the finance world a bit. And it was a little bit bumpy. It was really hard to find a good financial advisor. Fell down a couple of traps, but now after working for a company for almost 30 years, we're getting close to retirement, and I'm trying to figure out. I've heard you guys, as of recently, I've listened to I don't know how many podcasts in the last 2 weeks, but I have completely enjoyed listening to a lot of the back ones. That there's something called a backdoor Roth IRA.
Okay.
And I started to look up some of the guidelines for when you can get tax deductions for your Roth IRAs. And I'm not sure how it applies to me. I can tell you what we have.
That's perfect.
And
That's what you obviously have listened to the show. You know, I'll share this with you. It's kind of off topic. I had a meeting with clients earlier today. We're taping this on a weekday, and I had clients earlier today, and he wanted to know if we prep the listeners for the calls. He said because they normally come prepared, and oftentimes will answer questions before you ask them. So is that you prepping them? And I said, no, that's people that call the show, that listen to the show, because we have a tendency to ask all the same questions time and time again. So answer whatever questions you think we're going to ask.
Okay, so I think you may ask what we currently have in our retirement plans.
Correct.
So I'll run you through the list.
Perfect.
And my question for you is, do you want me to combine my wife's and
No.
mine, or do you want us to do it separately?
Separate.
Okay. So I have in a Roth roughly $160,000, and I have in a 403B roughly $586,000. And then I have something called a 401A. Quite frankly, I'm not certain I know what that tax code is, but
Okay.
I have $147,000.
How much?
$147,000. And then embarrassingly, not being the financially educated at home, I didn't know what an HSA was until this year. So we started contributing to that, and I have about $5,200 in the HSA.
Okay.
And then $17,000 in a 457, which I also realized had come to find out that we have something called a 457 available to us in addition to our 403B, which I didn't realize. And so we started contributing to that. So we'll be maxing out our 403Bs and our 457s and our HSAs from here on out for the next 5 years.
And what does your wife have in her name?
She has less. So she has 150,000 in Roth IRAs, pretty close. A traditional for 9,000. Let's see, her 403.
A traditional what?
A traditional. She has just a small traditional IRA.
How much is in that?
9,000.
Okay.
And her 403B is, let's see, I got to add this up. It looks like 510,000. And she has a few thousand and also in a 401A, which is 3,700.
And that's
an
typically
HSA.
money that your employer contributes on your behalf is what the 401A balances are.
It's the other side of a 401k. It's employer
Gotcha.
contributions.
Okay, great. And then an HSA of 6,000 and 26,000 in her 457.
And what is it you're trying to do? So right now you say you're going to maximize both the 401k and 457.
Yeah.
So how much
Yeah,
on an annual basis are you putting into the combined accounts?
Well, I've been putting in about 20 to 25,000 every year for a number of years in mine. She's been putting in less in hers. But we actually have another income of about 50 to 100,000 a year on top of our income at our jobs. So we have plenty of money to put away right now.
What's the source of that income?
Mineral interest, royalties.
So it's not earned income, it's passive income.
It's passive income, yeah.
Okay. And it's something you inherited.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, how old are you?
I'm 58,
And your spouse?
57.
And by the way, you are an incredible saver. I don't care what advice you got growing up. I'm glad you didn't listen to the one not. You wouldn't have 160K in your Roth if you didn't invest in the stock market. That's just fact. What a great savers. Great savers.
Thank you. That makes me feel better because it's been a bit bumpy. I can tell you some stories.
Oh, no, look, I don't care what the path looked like, where you ended.
I'm going to take a little issue with that, Pat.
What?
So, I mean, what David's got going for him, he and his wife, they have a pension. But if you backed out the pension, if they had no pension and were making $260,000 a year and had this saved, you'd say, what the heck's wrong with you? You don't have nearly enough saved.
I stand corrected.
But
I stand absolutely corrected.
You factored in what his shortfall is and looked at his savings compared to the shortfall, and you're like, you are in great shape.
You are in great shape.
Correct. You're in great shape. You picked the right career path,
right,
and saved enough.
You define your risk tolerance. My guess is, at least in life, was relatively low. I assume the home is paid for.
We have 2 homes. We've already bought our retirement home, and they're both paid for.
Okay.
And what's your question for us?
A Roth IRA. Backdoor Roth.
I should probably tell you, I have about $100,000 in the bank, and I have roughly $80,000 in a brokerage account in addition to that. But I'm trying to understand the tax implications that I've heard you discuss with other callers, and I just don't know if I understand how our 403B tax implications and 457 tax implications work when we're contributing now at a maximum. Is that considered a backdoor Roth IRA kind of situation?
Are you contributing on the before tax or an after tax traditional basis?
I'm contributing before tax.
Yeah.
Why don't we describe what a backdoor Roth is?
What this enables you to do is it doesn't matter how much money you've got going into a 401k or 403b or 457, as long as you have some sort of wage income, earned income, at least equal to the amount that you're going to contribute to the IRA, traditional IRA, you can do this. And this really impacts those that the income limits are such that they can no longer contribute to a Roth IRA. So you contribute to a traditional IRA.
Non-deductible.
Correct. Non-deductible, traditional IRA. And then you immediately convert that
to a Roth IRA the very next day. The very next day.
What happens when you convert, you don't just look at that one IRA that you're converting. You have to look at all of your IRAs. Now, you don't own any other IRAs.
So you're fine. But my recommendation, since you have 5 years, is to go ahead and just convert your wife's traditional IRA, this $9,000, into a Roth IRA. Just do that tomorrow. You're going to pay taxes on that. Right, so that's $9,000 that's going to show up as taxable income, and then every year after that, you're just going to do a non-deductible,
well, including right now. And then I'd try to maximize your contributions to the 403B and 457s.
Why, Scott?
Yeah, because that's what we were planning on doing. So we don't have any other expenses without any house.
Just because their income's going to drop quite a bit once they retire.
I don't think so.
Well, then convert on a Roth basis. Contribute on a Roth basis.
Yeah, but we're going to go out and grow this. They've got 5 years to retire. Right? So you got 5 years of growth on this. You'd have to do the numbers. It looks to me that they're pretty dang comfortable. I don't know if I would push into both the 403B and the 457 is my point.
My guess
to the
is,
maximum.
Is your income much higher today than it used to be a couple years ago?
Yes, it is. It's much higher. We both, after the pandemic, we both kind of got promoted and got some higher paying jobs.
All right.
Yep.
Okay. I'd make the argument that maybe you actually use both of them as well. You're used to living on a much lower income than you're making today, correct?
That's right.
And you haven't
had comfortable where we're at.
You haven't had lifestyle creep. You didn't go out and buy a $7,000 barbecue.
No, I didn't do that.
Do they sell $7,000 barbecue?
Yeah, but you did buy a $300 smoker, the Smoky Joe down at the Costco.
Wow, I couldn't get myself to buy a $7,000 barbecue.
I'm still thinking about that. $7,000.
Oh, it happens.
For most of our life, we bought cars under $1,000 and just drove them until they died, and then bought another one for $1,000. And then recently, now that we have more money and we need a little bit more dependence on our cars, we went and just bought 2 cars with cash.
All right. Yeah. Yep. I would do what Scott says. I'd
run the numbers just because you might be able to have money's a funny thing, right? So my guess is when you were young, just like most couples, there wasn't that much coming in. You really had to scrimp and save and cut corners where you could, and it was not easy to save. But you're at a time now, my guess is if you continue to, if you maxed out both the 403B and the 457s,
you're going to have too much money.
You're going to end up down the road. You're going to have way more money than your lifestyle requires. Yeah. And so then it just creates another issue. And
maybe my guess is it's maximize the 403B and probably 50% into the 457. You can still use them both, but you don't have to max them both.
Okay.
And I would do that. And you're good. You're good. But you are a good saver. I mean, you're not the greatest saver ever, but you're a good saver.
Well, considering the income just lent to the level it's at
That's
recently,
right.
that makes a big difference.
Yeah,
Too.
great job.
You're
Great
in phenomenal
job.
shape for
will you
retirement.
do us a share that podcast with your friends? We're trying to. Our marketing people tell us when we get a certain
Once
number.
we get 100 listeners.
No, they say like 100,000 or something. We hit the
Whatever it is.
tipping point, and then everything goes viral or something, and I get to go on Oprah. Is she still around? Does she still have a show?
I don't know.
You can
Not on
count on
television.
me.
Is Oprah still on
come to it.
television? Do you know, David?
I never. I shouldn't say this on public air. I've never watched Oprah, but
I don't think she's on the air. I think she has her own channel. It's her own
I haven't-
universe now.
Oh, I don't know. Anyway, share that podcast if you will, and give us a rating, and we'd appreciate it.
Yeah, and that's I think I've watched Oprah before.
I
can't
have
say
watched
that I've
Oprah.
Never.
You get a car. You get a car. You get a car.
I missed that one.
Everyone gets a car.
My mother-in-law was a huge Oprah fan.
Was she?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Scott, before we go, we talked about this. We had a whole program about the third chapter years ago.
Yes.
Where what people do in retirement.
This is about 10 years ago. About 10 years ago, we did this offsite, had some, and we looked at like what is it that really gives us satisfaction as advice, like kind of the why of what we do this, and it all came back to it's the people. It's not the planning or the numbers. It's the relationships with human beings, families, individuals, as they're navigating their life, right? And most good advisors, that's why they are in this business.
They have a personal interest in the outcome of their client.
Yes, and understanding what drives their clients, helping their clients make the best choices in their life, and having their wealth, their finances used as a tool to help their clients have a fulfilled life.
Which goes back to the first call today with Cindy, which is she was talking about wanting to buy a rental home. You're like, well, you've got it. You figured it all out. Don't complicate it now. But
unless this is something unless you really want to manage a rental house.
There's not a big line for people wanting to really manage a rental house. But so I came across this article in the Wall Street Journal called "The Retirement Crisis No One Warns You About." And it talks about mapping financial security and physical well-being is certainly important. But the problem that people actually have in retirement is not
now
being,
what?
Now, yeah, correct. And not being seen. So they want to be useful and capable of making a difference in the next chapter of their life. And a full 30% of people that go into retirement don't think about this. And it's especially hard on people that a third of people experience depressive symptoms, especially if they were forced into retirement by layoffs or mandatory exits or illness. So a third of the people that are forced into retirement through no fault of their own, it didn't come as planned. And they interviewed 3,000 retirees, experienced depressive symptoms because of how they found them. And this is irrespective of money. In fact, there may be a negative correlation with the more involved you are at the work and the more successful you were pushed into retirement actually leads to
It really depends on your profession.
Correct.
Some professions lead to phenomenal part-time work, consulting, whatever. Some professions don't at all.
Yeah, and if you were the person calling the shots at work every day, and then one day you're not noticed.
Well, you were part of a team doing strategy, all that stuff, and then it ends.
They call it SAID, S-A-I-D, seen and essential, appreciated, so valued for your contribution, invested in. You were supported and cared for by an organization or a group of people and depended upon. You needed to be there. They call it SAID, right?
The whole dependency. I've seen studies that how important it is to be needed, to have responsibilities where your people count on you for something.
So
whatever it is.
there was a study by the Canadian Journal on Aging that found that less than half of the people actually gave consideration to this, what
they're
their
working.
lifestyle looks like after. So,
So, Pat, we've seen people in their 50s that have had a career at a company. The career's going well. They're like, all right, I'm going to run the rat race for another 5 years, then retire. That's my option here, right? Like, just keep running. And they say, I'm going to take an off-ramp, do a different career, make a little less, but something I can do well past 60, 65 or whatever.
something that they really are invested in. So the reason
Which might be managing rental properties, as we talked about before. Depending, right? I mean, whatever.
But the reason I bring this up is having worked with hundreds and hundreds of clients, I've seen people that retire really, really well, and I see people that retired not so well. And a lot of it comes back to this SAID, S-A-I-D, right?
I ran into, last night, my wife and I were at the dinner, I ran into a guy I'd met 35 years ago. We worked in the same building. And I'd run into him before. I ran into him. He said, this year's been 20 years since I sold my business and retired. He said, I was 49. He's 69. And I said, what have you doing? He plays golf 3 days a week. That's what he does at this time. And he left, and I told my wife, and maybe that's the best thing for him. I'm not knocking him. For me, I said, that sounds like a nightmare to me. Like,
That's right. Yeah. So
I don't golf, but
But you think about it. So I would implore you, if you're in your 50s, to give consideration. And if you're retired and you're feeling depressive symptoms because of the change, go get help. Get some counseling. There are answers. I would implore you.
Counseling, or there's various kind of coaches where you can be with peers. And in this day and age, a lot of us can be online, but you can be in a peer group that are all going through the same stuff together.
And see what comes of it. But don't ignore it. Don't ignore it. It's a dangerous thing. It's not good for your mental health. So
And
anyway,
look at things like gray divorce,
yeah.
and increased alcoholism during that stage of life.
Oh, yeah. We've all had clients that have fallen into a bottle.
Yeah. Hey, I want to let everyone know about our webinar that we've got coming up. And if you've been a listener a while, you know that we are focused on education, and we've got a variety of different things. And then we have these webinars periodically on different things. This one we've got coming up is titled Strategic Moves for Volatile Markets. And during this webinar, we're going to reveal advanced strategies that investors that have $2 million or more, what they're using right now to combat some of the swings in really any market, but this market, and also any market. I'm doing it along with Victoria Bogner, who's our head of wealth planning. And so you might have heard her on some other webinars. She does a phenomenal job, much better than me. But during this, you're going to learn some smart diversification strategies, some downside protection methods to protect during the downside, and some tax-efficient tactics. This webinar is going to be broadcast on 4 different times: Wednesday, February 11th, Saturday, February 14th, Thursday, February 19th, Saturday, February 21st. To get all the information and to register, it's allworthfinancial.com/workshops. Again, allworthfinancial.com/workshops. Anyway, we'll see you next week. This has been Scott Hansen, Pat McLean of Allworth's Money Matters.
This program has been brought to you by Allworth Financial, a registered investment advisory firm. Any ideas presented during this program are not intended to provide specific financial advice. You should consult your own financial advisor, tax consultant, or estate planning attorney to conduct your own due diligence.